Welcome to a new Harry's Garage video, and today's car is this, the super rare Aston Martin Callum Vanquish 25, and that 25 reference how many examples of this car there's going to be. So this car is from this new design house Callum, from Ian Callum, used to be at Jaguar Land Rover and before that Aston Martin, and did the original design on the Vanquish. It's one of his favourite cars, and he's always wanted to improve it and just give it more of a finesse. You've got to remember, the Aston Martin Vanquish arrived in year 2000. It's one I remember well because back in Evo days, this issue is November 2000, and we put the Vanquish on the cover because this is when Aston Martin revealed the car to us, the first world reveal. And I can remember going to Newport Pagnell, taking the covers off, and Newport Pagnell was where they made the old style cars, the V8 Vantage supercharged type cars with hammers and rolling aluminium, and suddenly they took the covers off the Vanquish, which was carbon fibre and being engineered with the help of Lotus, and such a complete change from what Aston Martin had been done before. I actually ended up writing the cover story for it because we ride in Aston's radical new supercar. That was a word exclusive because back then I was managing director of Evo. I'd gone along to do the cover shoot at Millbrook, and one of the engineers says, "Oh, tell me where you want to take the car." I hopped in this Vanquish, so I was basically the first journalist ever to ride in this car. So I thought, hang on a minute, I've been in it, I can do a story on that, and that's why we ended up with a cover with that cover line. 20 years ago now. It's extraordinary how time flies, but Ian Callum has changed this Callum design. If we go round it, there's a number of changes on the body, really neat stuff, but what particularly interests me is there's a chassis engineer now at Callum who I know from previous work I've done at Jaguar Land Rover, and that's Adam Don Francesco. And Adam has a lovely CV behind him, the cars he's helped develop. One of them, right at the beginning, Noble M600. Well, that wasn't a bad handling car. And then while he was at Aston Martin, he helped engineer the chassis on the GT12 and the GT8, those Aston Martin Vantage sort of special cars that have a great reputation. So the one thing I've never really liked about the Vanquish was the chassis on it. You never quite trusted it. It always did odd things, which I'll explain more when we take it outside. Adam has given this a thorough rethink on the chassis. So dampers, springs, anti-roll bars, tyres, wheels, all sorts of changes on it. And it struck me this car is really a GT car, and I wanted to try it out properly. So normally I would take you around the car in detail, take it on my favourite bit of road, but this time I thought, do you know what, let's take it out for a proper drive. This is a GT car after all. We can't really do a European trip at the moment, so what about exploring some of the best bits of the UK? And I have to confess, there's the A40 by us, Oxford and Burford. If I continue that all the way along, all the way to the west, it takes us to the beautiful part of Wales I've never really explored. Fishguard, around there, Pembroke, Pendine Sands, all those sort of areas. So I'm going to take this on a bit of a tour, and then we'll get to know this car a lot better. So there's some very fancy bags in the back of this car, just behind the seats, but I daren't use them. Because they've never been used. And there's a decent boot here actually, some camera gear and stuff. Actually I should have just shown, just look here, I don't know if you can see there, I love this panel. All the cars are going to be numbered, and this is P3 there because this is prototype 3, as you can see there. Nice thing. Really, I really like the way they're actually going to number them, but with 25 cars it's not hard, I suppose. Also, if anybody's wondering about the plate, this is because it's a prototype, it's on a trade plate. I'm part of on their insurance. We had to do a little bit of paperwork, but that's what that's all about. So there we go. We'll jump inside. It's really windy out here, and I'll just show you on a map where we're going to go. Instantly feels different when you get in here because the seat are so low. It's pinging because there's a key in the lock. Right, what we're going to do is, well, we're sort of Oxford way here. We're going to follow the A40 and Ross-on-Wye, top of the Brecon Beacons here. Carnarvon, we're actually staying the night in Pembroke Dock down here, but Fishguard is the end of the A40, so that's where we're going. This bottom little toe of Wales. I put out on Twitter we're going to do this. Some really useful tips came through, so thank you very much for those. And we'll go and explore these roads. It's 2 o'clock. We should have left a few hours ago, but a friend broke down and I went on a rescue mission with the truck. So we've got quite a few miles. It's 200 miles there. The route we're taking is about 3.5 hours, so it's going to be a bit of a late. So I think next time you'll catch up, we will be probably somewhere into Wales, I would hope. Well, we're making good progress. We've just come through Abergavenny on the A40. We're just coming to the sort of top of the Brecon Beacons. This is the sort of start of Wales. If you're into the good roads, the great roads. I'm just looking at a hotel up there. Actually, we stayed on for a car of the year. Actually, or was it a driver's car? I think it was. Another minimal change, but makes all the difference. At Callum, they take the standard wheel because they've got to have it for the airbag, but they machine down the rim of the steering wheel to a much better size, so it's thinner. It used to have this over-fat wheel, a bit of the BMW M power syndrome with their fat steering wheels. Just right now, I can't get over little things like that make such a difference. So all good really. Manual gearbox, I'm going to comment on that when I'm a bit more used to it. Takes a little bit of getting used to. It's a little bit stiffer, the change than you would like. But I've never really driven an Aston Martin with a great gear change, so it continues with the tradition of a slightly rubbish change. It's not rubbish is a bit too harsh actually, but just not a change that you want to make just for the pleasure of the change. So anyway, we'll press on. What are we now? 4 o'clock. Probably got another couple of hours to go. Just going through Krakow, another bit of a haunt from the past. Evo magazine. We did remember bringing the Countach out here. There's a Shell petrol station here where we could get super unleaded. That's the road up to the hills we used to use. No end of tests have happened up there. Lots of magazines use it. So yeah, we're just getting to the start of Wales, the road test area around the Brecon Beacons. Well, we're nearly at the tip of the south of Wales, St David's. St David's Head is just up here. It's been a long old journey. It's taken 4 and a bit hours to get here, but look at the scenery. I can't get over it. It's suddenly, you can see the sea, you've got these estuaries, the sun's going down, and this is a bit more what I was hoping to find. It almost reminds me of, well, the Scottish Highlands or something like that. This is the A487 we're on. We've just come up from Pembroke Dock. Here we are, Norton Haven, and the sea disappears. God, it's busy though. My goodness, it's busy down here. You just can't get accommodation at the moment in the UK with everyone the staycation, everybody having weekends, a few days away. But yeah, this is a very popular spot. So what I've discovered about this car so far, well, one, the seats are really comfy, so I'm very pleased about after so long at the wheel. I don't know, they're just the right shape for me. I have no aches and pains. We dropped bags off at the hotel after 4 and a bit hours. Just feels great. Other things, it doesn't feel like a regular Vanquish, which is good. Never quite liked the Vanquish, so this is a lot better. I mean, suddenly being met by a hairpin, that was a bit of a surprise, but we're in a 30 limit, so there's no silliness going on. Love the tractable engine, just proper V12. Just you let the revs fall right away, and there's always this grunt that just pulls you out without strain. Engine never feels strained, and then it has a sort of raspiness to it and gets a bit of a move on. There, you just hear that raspiness. That's not, again, not your regular Vanquish noise, but they've put, there's quite a sexy manifold on the engine, and this completely different rear box. I'll have to show you the rear box in the morning. A stunning bit of design. Oh, I'm itching to give it a little bit more exercise, but as I say, we're up in a 40 limit all this bit. The plan now, we're driving out to St David's to watch the sun go down, and then we're going to dive off, find somewhere to eat tonight, and then in the morning you'll join us again and I'll give you a proper tour around the car and some of the sort of fun design features and stuff like that. But at the moment I'm just going to see what this road is like. But yeah, suddenly the scenery has got a whole lot better. Well, morning from Hazel Beach Boating Club. Found a little place down by the sea. Milford Haven's round the corner. What we're discovering is this weekend, we're late September, this part of Wales is heaving. There are so many tourists here at the moment, which you can't supply. The weather's absolutely beautiful. But I thought it's about time I gave you a tour around the car. I've just seen that sign, no parking. Well, we'll ignore that for the moment. But I just want to show you through the details that Callum designed, what they've done to the original Vanquish, and what makes this car sort of stand out on the design front. Now, starting at the front, we obviously have this different grille at the front. There's this bottom grille as well, sort of accompanying the top grille, that is sort of familiar from the Vanquish, but it's finished in this extraordinary, this is metal, this is shaped billet aluminium, shaped to this shape and then done with this dark chrome finish. I think it looks absolutely ace how it's come out, and carbon surround. And then the other big change, those strange giant sort of spotlight indicators have gone, and we have this in carbon fibre now, which is actually a brake duct taking air to the brakes, which on this car are carbon fibre. They're off, I think, the DB11, the current brakes, but they're an option on this car. Other big change, 20-inch wheel and much wider track, so that's done in the offset on the wheel. There's a fancy competition hub as well that it just adds for the added load that this car can generate. New lights system, carbon fibre here of course, with LED light system, and that is also side lights, indicators and that sort of thing, and that's why that bottom light can go. Also love this sort of badge now that has a flash of orange where it says Aston Martin, because that is the signature colour of Callum design. Come round the side again, this vent rather than in chrome, very it's sort of slimmed down in carbon. I think it looks superb. Abstract tartan as they call it, which is again a signature of Callum design. The mirrors as well, gone with the giant sort of Vanquish standard mirrors, these much more slimmed down carbon fibre ones, unique to this car. Along the side where we have that sill finisher with 4 vents, I'm not quite sure what they're for, a little bit of air at the front. I think the biggest change with the appearance of this Aston is the start. You suddenly get a wider track. I think it's either 33 or 50mm wider track, but it's done with this offset. Suddenly the wheels fill the arch. You can see how tight that is. They're 295, they're 20-inch wheels again, so 1 inch bigger, but it's just tight. It just adds muscle to the car. And it looks like it came out as a standard, but when you see original Vanquish next to this, this looks much more muscular, despite there's no change to this actual body panel. This is a new backlight design as well. Hideously expensive to do this sort of thing. There was chrome here, there's no chrome here, it's body coloured. That's the Callum badge. Now what I might do now, I might just grab the camera for almost my favourite feature, and that's the exhaust. If you look under here, let's see what you can see. I love the back exhaust box. See, these pipes come directly out of this here, and this is the back box. That is actually with aero on it. That is an exhaust there, actually fashioned like that rather than a sort of ribbed normal box. You see the pipes come directly out of it. That is an aerodynamic rear exhaust pipe. If I go right underneath, you'll see the Vanquish actually has a flat floor. It's all sealed, which is why when we get to the front and see the engine, the engine has to have those chimneys. So let's go up the front now. Again, that abstract tartan finish, that grille there, these are actually sunken down. And these chimneys are essential, as I'll point out when we open this up. Mighty impressive engine in here. I think I might just grab the camera again. Carbon fibre airbox here now. That's unique to this car. Part of its tuning just to give it more chance to breathe. They haven't increased the CC, it's still 6 litre. But there is major work done on the exhaust. There's different cams in here as well, and a little bit on the induction side. This carbon fibre here sort of links the 2 air intakes as well. It's actually structural, that is actually holding those firm in position. I love the body coloured strut going across as well. And the chimneys, just to explain what they're doing, there's a sort of bunch of bananas manifold hiding under there, but because of the flat floor there's no airflow going underneath the car. All the air from the hot exhaust has to be vented out the front, and this is what this is about. So all the exhaust is wrapped and they just pummel hot air out through the vents in the bonnet. Another fun feature on this car was the leather lined bonnet, and this again is carbon thing. I think this is getting very hot. I wonder what that will look like in a few years time, who knows. But for the moment, that's a pretty impressive engine bay. Right, well there's the design features on this car. As I say, I think it all comes together really quite nicely, and it does look, when you put another Vanquish beside it, it's that muscular look it's got. Right, what we're going to do now, grab a coffee, and then we're going to head up into the hills. There's some particularly good roads I've been recommended. There's a national park just north of Fishguard, so that's where we're going to go next. I was just sitting here having my coffee, looking at the car, and realised I've missed off one critical design change they made on the side of the car. So if I can just grab the camera. It's the surround round this side glass, which is this here. And you think, oh, there's no change on that, but again, when you put a normal Vanquish next to it, you can see the change, and it just makes it flusher. It gets rid of a sort of rubber seal here and just tightens up this bit. It's one of those things that yeah, designers love. I do wonder how many customers are going to notice. Well, we're on the B4329 that heads off to Cardigan. We've just entered the Pembrokeshire Coastal National Park, and it's got very sort of North Wales like the moors. See what we've got here. Well, this is actually turning out this the best road I think we've found so far. The sort of roads I sort of hoped for. Obviously, there's still tourists etc. out here, but they're nicely surfaced at the moment. I'm really having quite a lot of fun. It's the steering that's sort of transformed on this Vanquish. It's just this honesty, the way it turns in, completely different to the standard car. It's amazing how much you can change, you know, a chassis behaviour, the feel, the confidence it gives to the driver. One, by getting the steering wheel the right side. Two, adding caster at the front, a little bit of negative camber, the right tyres, Bilstein dampers and the right springs, bushing, and it is transformed, utterly transformed, and it goads you to push it, which is the last thing a Vanquish ever did. Suddenly narrows up, goes in between the trees. I think it's just we come off the moor. We've spent 2 days now in this corner of Wales, and I thought I ought to show you where we've been. This is the area, this is Brecon Beacons, this is where we used to use on Evo. This A4067 and then this very famous road, A4069, and those hairpin bends, etc., and coming across here. Fantastic area. It's sort of one of those roads, always gets me. It's just that bit, and what I like is areas which have more variety, so that's why I was keen to come right over this corner of Wales, right at the far end. And St David's there is where I really want to try. I've been recommended this A487, which takes you along here and then back this way towards Fishguard. And today we've just been using this bit, A487 up towards Cardigan, and then we're now on this A478 coming back down all the way down to Tenby. Really pretty area, but I have to say it's this Pembroke Coast National Park area and the B4329, of all the roads we've done, I would say that's the best road we've experienced this Aston on. Well, I think that it's quite busy in this corner of Wales, I've discovered, especially with staycation all the rage in the end of September, and the roads, there's a temptation to go a bit too fast on them. They're big and open, like this one we've just been on here. It's this sort of thing. It's not badly sighted, and yeah, to give the Vanquish a bit of an exercise up there, where you're starting to go at big speeds very quickly. I would give it a 6 or 7 out of 10 for the actual quality of the roads. Scenery's good. Seems to be worth a visit, but everywhere is booked out at the moment, so yeah, I'm very glad I've seen this corner of Wales. But actually the roads I would say were the ultimate roads are these ones in the Brecon Beacons. So what I'm going to do now, get back in the car, we're going to head down towards Tenby, and just to come to some conclusions on this Callum edition, 25 edition of the Aston Martin Vanquish. We'll start with the dislikes. I suppose my number one irritation I found on this trip are actually the instruments, because I can't quite see them. Callum Design has added a sort of hatching on the glass of the dials, and it sort of looks good when you're static and you're doing it, but when you're actually trying to use the car, it covers up the critical bit of readout, telling me range or how many miles we've done or whatever. I can't. Half of that is cut off, and you have to peer around the etching to be able to see what it says. And it's also the same on the dials. I can't quite see it with clarity on fuel and temperature and the sort of top of the rev range. And it's particularly bad at night, because then the dials are just backlit and the needles disappear completely. So I think there needs a bit of a rethink on that area. I sort of like the design. It's sort of frustrating it doesn't actually work in practice, and I do like the sort of bits of flashes of orange you get on the dash and the top of the wheel. I'm a big fan of that. And then, as you probably guessed there, my other grumble is probably the gearbox, and this isn't really a grumble at Callum Design at all, because the manual gearbox conversion on Vanquish is actually done by Aston Martin Works, and that's exactly what this car has had. Their conversion, their 6-speed conversion on the standard 6-speed automated manual gearbox. And I desperately want to say it's fantastic, but it's not really. It's a bit notchy. First, second, third, fourth work okay. Fifth is tricky to find. The gate isn't very well defined, and you don't always hit it first time. But I suppose it's just the positioning of the gear stick. When you're in second here, it's quite a long way back. When you're in third, it sort of falls naturally to hand. But to get back to fourth, I'm sort of hitting the chair here, so I sort of have to do a funny hand movement to get fourth, because my arm doesn't go back far enough because the seat's in the way. It's just that it just needs to be a bit further back. The thing about the gearbox though is there's a choice of having the standard gearbox as it came from Aston back in the day, or this manual gearbox, or an automatic gearbox, which is under development at the moment, and that's going to be a modern 6-speed gearbox and paddle shift, and like I've got automatic gearbox in the Project 8, Project 7, and they work really well with today's modern gearboxes. So there is a choice, you don't have to have the manual. What else? We've done battle with the infotainment system. It's an Alpine system that's been hijacked to put a screen there. It does have Apple Play, so it's all right on Apple Play. And finally, on the annoyances, the clock. It's an automatic movement. Bremont, beautiful watch clocks put here on the dash. Unfortunately, being an automatic movement, it never winds itself up because it's in a vertical plane. That weight automatic watches work needs to be on a horizontal plane, and then it fidgets like this and winds the clock up with just movement. So you just get it just stops after about 36 hours or something, and you have to take it off and wind it up. Not so keen on the stalks as well, because they're from Ford. I mean, it was the original Vanquish was launched under Ford ownership, and the one thing Ford don't spend money on is interiors, and the poor standard Vanquish really suffered from that. It was way on lower budget than Aston would normally spend on the interior, and there's just flashes of it that are still here, and that's the stalks. I just think of TVR in Peter Wheeler's day. They used to have those lovely aluminium stalks that he put on top of the sort of Vauxhall stalks. I think there's some treatment needed here, but fortunately there's plenty of likes with this car. I'm going to kick off. The number one light is that transformed chassis behaviour. Finally, this is a Vanquish that I wouldn't be surprised to see at a track day. No one would take a standard Vanquish on a track day, because you just want you to drive it up to 8 temps, fine, and then you just want to nibble at the outer edges, and it used to bite. There are a number of motor journalists who've unfortunately put Vanquishes in ditches and hedges all over Europe, just because it's unpredictable behaviour. And then the engine. Wow, it's strong engine. 580 horsepower isn't absolutely stellar these days, but it's plenty of horsepower, and it's such an engaging V12. The tweaks they've done on it has just enhanced its behaviour. It's a lovely engine to punt around with this gearbox. Quick to rev, power everywhere, power at 1000 RPM, power at 6000 RPM, just proper V12s. I love that. Outside design, I think it's worked. I think the tweaks on the outside have added this muscle, this sort of honing of the original Vanquish, which was hardly a bad looking car, but that extra nose, that deeper nose section, that lovely black chrome treatment, really nice. The wheels stepped out, that muscular look from the 20-inch wheels, fantastic. I like the carbon brakes as well, although they did, even they were not struggling to control. They were at the outer limits, controlling it up on the moors when you were really pressing on. I think they ought to be standard on this car. I thought it'd be a bit more induction sound. It's more mainly exhaust, but it's a good, encouraging, tuned V12 sort of sound. Interior, I really like this abstract tartan, unique sort of look that Bridge of Weir have done for Callum Design, and the leather is absolutely beautiful, and there's that gorgeous expensive smell every time you open the door on this car. I'm never going to get bored of that as well, and it works, the interior. I love the bags at the back. Yes, we haven't used them, but they're there. I love a car with that sort of ease of just throwing bags and coats and stuff in the back. Seats need a special mention as well. For me, super comfy, happy to punt all day long. So in conclusion, it is a wonderful GT car, this Aston Martin Callum Vanquish 25. The one thing I haven't mentioned is the price. Now that's where it all gets a bit tricky, and I'm not really going to make much of an issue of it because it is only 25 cars, and you've got to think Singer, and you've got to think Zagato one-offs. It's an expensive car, madly, irresponsibly expensive. I've got watches that tell the same time as a Casio that cost stupid amounts of money, but they're only as good as a Casio. So you cannot justify the price on this car. But if you do get one, then you will enjoy Aston Martin Vanquish like I've never explored Aston Martin Vanquish, with a chassis that you're going to really enjoy, engage with, and you can use it as a GT. So I have enjoyed my 2 days with this car, really enjoyed them. I hope you've enjoyed this video as well. If you have, well, keep watching, keep subscribing, more videos coming along very soon.